the lane, 15, 10, touchdown Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into a bye-week edition of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by Matt Money Smith. Bolts on a much-needed bye, 4-3 at that bye with Atlanta on deck. And Money, I guess we could start with the Seattle game. It wasn't what everybody envisioned. You go down 17-0. You're outscored 41-3 in the last three games in the first quarter. A slow start, a tough finish, and that's the result, 4-3.
Yeah, it's, again, I assume we'll probably just start with Seattle and get into that. And yeah, I think, look, when we were talking, on this, we're discussing 6-1 and 5-2, and how great will that be? And look, it's still
4-3. You said 4-3.
I mean, they're still, they're still in the playoffs. Technically, they'd be the 7th spot. They'd be the very last team in the playoffs of the season ended today, playing the Chiefs in the wild card round. Not ideal. I think it's less about the record and just kind of more about the way they looked and some of the concerns there. And just, it's been a very, I think the best word I can use is curious. It's been a very curious pattern. And again, I never speculate on medical because I barely know what I'm talking about when it comes to football, let alone, medical conditions. But just like Justin just doesn't look right. It does not look like the Justin Herbert that we are used to seeing. The decision-making, the just sort of unwillingness to push the ball downfield. And look, so much goes into that. Protection, pass catchers that are available. What did the play call for? We have no idea where's his hot read? Where's he supposed to go? But, this is a team that is in the very bottom of the NFL on offense in explosive plays and at the very bottom of explosive plays allowed on defense. And that is a rough combo, man. When you're watching, Kenneth Walker take it to the house on a pitch, and every week we seemingly have one of these explosive plays, especially in the run game. And meanwhile, you've just got nothing downfield from the offense. It's something that we asked, Coach Staley about on our radio show earlier this week. And it's clear they're trying to figure it out. But to me, that's the one thing that's really raised its hand. And I am certainly concerned about is just how many explosive plays are being allowed and how few explosive plays we're seeing on offense.
Yeah. Well, let's break it down like offense, defense, and then just the injuries. I think offensively, I think what's concerning is I just talked to Austin Eckler for something we're doing for CBS LA. He has 53 receptions this year, Money. He has 18 more than the next running back in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey. A lot of dump-offs to Austin, which proves your point of not getting the ball down the field. They have not been able to run the ball efficiently and consistently. They ran the ball, I think, 12 times against Seattle, who was 31st in rushing defense. They allowed
166 per game.
166. 995 for the season entering week 7, and they couldn't run the ball for whatever reason. And, Lindsley was back, and I realized no Rashawn Slater. Now Keenan comes back. He was on a pitch count. He didn't play in the second half. Mike Williams goes down, which is going to be a huge loss potentially. I think Coach Staley said weeks, not days. So there's a lot of factors there. The wide receivers, right? If you have a Keenan who's less than 100%, no Mike Williams against Atlanta, no Jalen Guyton, who was their fastest receiver, what do you do to get the ball down the field? And to your point about Justin, I think that rib injury is something, man. It's something that we were told it's not going to go away overnight, and he's still, I think, playing through some pain. He has fewer offensive linemen than he came in with, and fewer weapons on the outside.
Yeah, look, I mean, appreciate Keenan trying to go, but it was 14 snaps. That's it. That's all he was able to play. You mentioned Mike going down, and just when you look at the receiving core, clearly, Michael Bandy, is, Bandy is on a. He's being asked to do things that he shouldn't be asked to do, I think is the best way I can put it. And also you can just tell that he and Herbert are not in sync. There's balls being put in spots where, for whatever reason, Bandy's not there. He's not quite there yet, and there's just that chemistry's not there. So that's an issue. you know, Guyton, like, his loss cannot be overstated.
Yeah.
The teams just, they're not honoring. I mean, you're talking about one of the strongest arms, you know, it's between he and Josh Allen for the strongest arm in the NFL, and defenses just don't care. They're not honoring it. They don't think he's going to push the ball downfield, and if he does, they're not worried about, you know, not being deeper than the deepest. So, you know, that's leading to the lack of a run game. The box is just stacked. You know, they're squatting on routes, and, you know, they're getting tips and interceptions. There should have been 2 interceptions, you know, in that game that were just flat drops. I mean, hitting guys. Michael Jackson got hit right between the numbers, you know, on one. So, and it's because they're squatting, because they're like, yeah, his ball's not getting pushed downfield. I'm going to jump routes. I'm going to watch these guys, and they're going to be sticks, and I'm going to jump it. And, you know, Guyton would at least offer that threat. When he's taken off, you got to, you know, he's got 4.3 speed, and you're going to send a safety that way, or at least some help, or you're going to have a corner playing way off of him. So, like, none of that's happening, and I think that's contributing to the lack of success in the run game. And, you know, I'm just looking at, I got the game pulled up right now, and, like, you know, the flip side of that is, I mean, well, you know what, we can just stay there. We'll get to the pass rush in a second, and just the defense in a second. But, you know, I don't know what the answer is. You know, it looked like early on, like DeAndre Carter was going to be a nice addition. And look, man, he was open. He was open on a touchdown throw, and he was open on, after it was 17-14, there was another play where he's there. I mean, he's got to step on his guy, he's streaking, and it's just a check down to Austin. And like I said, I think I don't know what it is. I wish I knew. I'm sure Joe and, you know, Coach Lombardi and Coach Staley have better answers than I do, and so does Justin Herbert and the guys that are in the middle of it all. But, man, when you sit where we sit, you know, we have a much different perspective than the players themselves. I mean, we've got the all-22 in front of us when we're calling the game. Yeah. We're up on the 7th level. So we can see it all, you know, and I'm just trying to figure out, you know, why the shots aren't being taken. You know, and what, because the pockets, you know, it's all right. It's there, you know, and we know how good Justin's been in the pocket, climbing it, moving, rolling out to extend plays, to use that arm of his. And it just has not happened. It's not happened at all since Kansas City. You know, there were a couple shots in the Cleveland game, but not really. It's just been really one check down and routes getting broken off ever since then. And, you know, that's, I think you mentioned it, Chris. Part of me wonders, you know, kind of what you said, which is, are those ribs a lot worse than they're letting on, and they're trying to protect the long term of their franchise, as opposed to, you know, allowing him to maybe take some shots in the short term to try to get some wins here in 2022.
Yeah. And, you know, they even said it, I think Coach Staley said it after either the Jacksonville game or whatever was after that, is that's not going to go away overnight. Like this rib injury is just something that may linger. Offensively, Money, what do they do against Atlanta? Like, I'm trying to think of the guys coming back. Let's say Keenan's back and Mike is not going to be out there. You get Palmer and Parham hopefully back after they were in concussion protocol. There has to be a commitment to running the football. Does Isaiah Spiller get more than one touch? What do you do there? Because I think the loss of Josh Kelly, we didn't really talk about that, but that seemed to have hurt this football team on Sunday.
They need speed. You know, they need speed. And we said it before the season. There was speculation that, you know, Jamison Williams was there. Would they take him at 17? Is there a speed play? Is it Dotson? Is it one of these guys that they're going to take to add to that receiver room? You know, we talk, and we don't talk, but, you know, it's something that I've lifted from DJ, and he lifted it. I don't know which coach he took it from, but you need the basketball team. And right now they don't have a basketball team. You know, they do not have that speed. You know, and when I say that, I mean you need the guys that can post up, the guys that are super athletic and run exceptional routes, and then you need the speed, you know, the point guard who's just lightning quick getting down the court. That's the idea. They don't have that, and I think until they figure out a way to get it, defenses just aren't going to back off. You know, I think that's the main concern. Is I think it's tough for them to run the ball because defenses don't, you know, they're just stacking the box. And you know what? They're struggling to run in light boxes too. I mean, there's a couple of those. So I think the bye might have come at a perfect time. They got 2 weeks to really unpack all this stuff and figure it out. Is it? I guess what I'm like, one of the things I really want to sort of what I'm trying to point out is that Coach Lombardi has taken a ton of incoming. He is Warren Sharp, and I love Warren. I think he does a great job with his football prospectus that he drops every year, but he has had it out for Lombardi for a while, since he got hired, really. So he's going to, exploit any failures on offense to the detriment of Coach Lombardi. It's not all on him. There's some plays out there, and we got to figure out why the decisions are being made in the crux of a play call that are being made, because I do think there's some plays out there. And I know we've discussed it before, that Justin's just such a fast processor that the second he sees, because he's able to scan the whole field, and the first guy that he sees open, bang, I'm going to hit him. And for some reason, he's not letting those downfield plays develop enough, or as soon as he sees that player, he's just content to take that. And it's leaving him with a lot of third downs, and it just has not been great. It's not been great on offense. But, yeah, to answer your question, Chris, I think they need to figure out how to take the top off of the defense. They need to get some breathing room out there on offense, or else they're going to continue to struggle running the ball, and they're going to struggle moving the ball, because defenses are just going to pack it in and continue to jump routes and just play to stop the run.
And I guess that could potentially be a trade deadline question, right? November 1st is the trade deadline. Do you make a move for a speedy receiver? Do you make a move to try to improve the offense, knowing injury situations on the offense with Mike and some of the other pieces? And also, do you try to change the identity of the offense? Right now, frankly, I'm not sure what the identity of the offense is, but
or the defense.
Or the defense. But I use Chicago as an example. Listen, you're not going to make Justin run the ball with those ribs like the way Justin Fields ran them, but they changed their offense based on their personnel and kind of what didn't work the first 5 or 6 games of the season. What is that? And I don't have the answer to this. That's something for Coach Staley and Coach Lombardi. But what do you do at the bye to maybe say, oh, you know what? This is the strength of our team right now as it's currently constructed. We have to play this way offensively in order to be successful. I don't know what that is.
Well, I think you alluded to it at the start of that, Chris, and that's something that we talked about. I think it was 3 weeks ago. Like, it leads me to believe that there's not a move out there. They're just not comfortable making a move midseason. They may not think it'll pay benefits, but when Robbie Anderson, who's had all of his money tied up in signing bonus, was only going to cost you like $1 million for the remainder of the season, and is essentially traded, to the Cardinals. Not essentially, he's traded to the Cardinals for a 6th and a 7th. That's nothing. I mean, it's very little draft capital. If you go through the Chargers roster, how many 6th and 7th round picks are still on the team, from a couple years ago? I know John and Dean made the huge play against the Broncos in overtime, and that's your 6th and 7th round pick. Horvath is a 7th round pick. He had a touchdown in each of the first 2 games. But again, you're talking about someone who could dramatically change the way your offense operates, by bringing in a guy that is a 4'3" guy who's 6'2" and isn't going to impact your cap situation. Now, there may be – look, the guy was thrown off the field the week he was traded, so they could have just done their due diligence and said, not worth it. Don't want to bring that element in, and there's part of that for sure. But I guess what I'm getting at is it seems like, and then I think about the struggles of the running game, and the fact that Robinson was acquired for a late mid-round pick, So, like, that's – by the Jets, like, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Doesn't seem like the price has been that high for positions of need that fit the Chargers and what they need. So it leads me to believe that, they're content, or maybe there's another play out there that they're keeping their eye on and they would rather, acquire. Because, look, there's going to be teams at the trade deadline that are going to unload guys, for draft picks, and that's, to me, that's the answer. I don't know what the other possible answer could be. I don't think any of the guys on the team are going to turn into 4-3 guys, and Keenan's going to help with his return. Mike's not gone for the season, so, he'll be back. Corner's interesting. They need a corner. There's no doubt about that now. With JC gone for the year, they're going to need to figure out a way to get another corner in here unless they feel better about the development of Ja or Dean moving forward. But, yeah, they need players. The injury fairy has not been kind. It has been an injury devil to the Chargers this season.
Yeah, and we've seen a ton of them on defense, and we're sensing a theme with the run defense. It seems like every week, except for that Denver game, they've given up a long run for a touchdown or just a long run in general. And the latest installment being that Kenneth Walker, Kenneth Walker's incredible. He's an incredible player, man.
Yeah, but they helped him.
Yeah.
They helped him. I mean, my goodness, every time you looked at, like, there's just, there's certain things, like I'm going to the team stats real quick. Yeah, so they're 5 of 9 on third down. They had a 3rd and 15. They had a 3rd and 16. They converted them both. And it's like one a penalty, one just straight converted it. When you look at their rushing yards, they rushed for 214 yards on 34 attempts. I know one of those was the explosive play, but that doesn't wash away that they were getting 5s and 6s and 8s like it was nothing. So that's an issue. The run defense is not good. It's not. I mean, there's no 2 ways around it. They restaffed, they stacked it. We felt better about it against, Las Vegas and Kansas City, but they still had those explosive plays, and we were like, Derwin got face masked on that Edwards, or that 52-yard run. We can explain that away, but you can't anymore because
we can't say take that away and they did this now, right? We can't say that
every
anymore.
week.
Yeah.
It happens every week. Like I said, this defense gives up the most explosive plays. I think it's in the bottom 3 for explosive plays allowed in the NFL. So, we thought the run defense might be fixed. It's not. Joey Bosa's out. That's a huge part of it when you talk about how good Joey is against the run and how good Khalil Mack is against the run. And, on that long run, it was Van Noy that got washed out, on that run, and that would be Joey or Khalil if Joey's healthy. So, yeah, I'm not saying it's, I understand there's extenuating circumstances, but with the players that are put on the field, it was a very to me, I just didn't quite understand the amount of respect they were giving Geno in the pass game. It just seemed like every snap there was a lot of cushion, and it was just, they and Pete and the offense were just content to take it, and it just seemed like it was easy. I mean, I'm looking at the pass rush, and there was none. You had a couple sacks. Obviously you had the interception early, and that's the other thing too that I've just found curious, and I'd love to kind of catch up and try to figure out. I mean, it's not the right time to do it because of how sideways it's kind of gotten here recently, but I don't quite understand the whole hurry up on the 3rd and shorts and the 4th and shorts. Has not worked this year. I haven't looked up to see exactly if it has worked, but I do feel like every single time they rush to the line of scrimmage, and I don't know why they do it, what advantage it is they think they're gaining. But, they get the interception to start the game. They get incredible field position. Now they've got a 4th and inches, and they don't convert it. Now they convert that. They score a touchdown. They go up 7-0. I think that completely changes the character of the game because now Geno's made a mistake. They've capitalized on a mistake. They've gone up 7-0. And I think that certainly sets a different tone. And that 4th and, a quarter of a yard, it was like 4th and a foot, or 1/3 of a yard. I just don't get it. I don't understand the advantage that they think they're gaining by rushing to the line of scrimmage and running that play because I've seen it multiple times this year and I've watched it fail damn near every time. So that's a bit of a concern. I'm kind of all over the place. Look, it was a bad game.
No,
it was like Jacksonville. It was a really bad game for this team.
And it's one thing. Okay, you convert that and you score. I agree with you. I think the whole tenor of the game changes, or you just take the points and you say, "Hey, we got 3 free points because of Geno's mistake," and you start the game.
Part of that's Bertolet too, though. Chris. Remember in Cleveland, none of his field goal attempts were beyond 30 yards. So you almost wonder if they just didn't quite trust him. Whatever, you know what I mean?
Would have been a 49-yarder.
Yeah, and you know what I think. Look, we know what this team's identity is. They're not kicking a 49-yarder there. They're going for it, man. It's 4th down. It's Brandon Staley. It's the Chargers. What they do, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine going for it. I just didn't like the play call. I don't get how that's an advantage. And, again, just so many questions when you come out of a game like that, when they look like that, and obviously with the losses that they incurred.
The J.C. Jackson injury money was tough to watch. DK Metcalf left that game too. We should say before
he was the first one to go out.
He was the first one to go out, but JC's injury was bad, and you hate to see that. I know that he was just trying to get his footing in general with this football team.
He was in great coverage on that play. He was step for step. He was about to explode and either intercept that ball or swat it away. I mean, he had that thing read. That's the sad part of it, is for all the incoming he's taken, like he had that play dialed up. He was in great position. And then when he went to leap to make a play on the ball and he went down, it was just like, oh, man. You knew it. Injuries like that, the second they happen, you're like, that's a bummer.
So JC's not coming back. And you mentioned the edge. Chris Rumph, your depth is super tested now on the edge with him out weeks, not days, according to Staley. So now it's Kyle Van Noy and I guess Tuska, right? I mean, those are the two guys.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably bring someone up from, I would guess, from the practice squad. I don't have it in front of me right now. I can't think of. I'm trying to think. I mean, Gaziano's more of an interior guy. But yeah, look, since Joey went down, they haven't had any pressure from that spot. It's their pressure has come from, the 2 sacks against the Seahawks were Morgan Fox and Austin Johnson. They're 2 interior players. And the interior of their line has been super leaky. So they took advantage of that. And, that's a main concern. They just have not had any pass rush on that opposite edge of Khalil since Joey went down. It has not come from Kyle Van Noy. It has not come from Chris Rumph. I think Chris, I want to say here, if I just go to the season, let me get rid of the preseason here. And
pull up their schedule here.
You got Chris, who's got 10 total pressures, and Kyle Van Noy, who's got 8. And when you just go through hurries, it's a total of 14, between the two of them. It's just not there. They're not, and I don't know what percent, and a lot, and you know what, I would slash those by 50% based on this. Sometimes it says they're a pressure and the quarterback's already climbed the pocket and delivered a strike. So I would cut those in half. So what I'm getting at is there has not been a lot of pressure on that side. So that's another concern, with Chris down. Look, Kyle's going to have to be on a pitch count. He can't play the whole game like Khalil does, so that's, there's, we're really getting into it, aren't we? I'm trying to find some positives here. Then you know what? The record's the positive. They're 4-3.
The record's the positive. But what's going to be challenging coming out of this bye is you have an unconventional offense in Atlanta who runs the football, right? You have a 49ers offense who runs the football with now Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
The Chiefs come to town, then you go to Arizona, and then then we'll know a lot, right? Raiders, Dolphins,
the early part of the schedule, you
Colts.
said it, Chris. The early, you've said it all season long. The early part of the schedule is where you had to get your equity. 6-1, 5-2. That's what we were talking about. In Atlanta, and we were all excited about Atlanta. And look, Arthur Smith is doing great things down there, and they are so much more competitive than anybody thought they'd have a chance to be. And you're talking about a quarterback that can run and has 4.3 speed. Cordero's been out, but their running game stayed effective. And it's Algier that's there, if I remember right. I think they got him out of BYU. Yeah, he's been solid. And you've got nightmare matchups. Drake London's been exceptional as a rookie, and Kyle Pitts is a nightmare, and he's finally on the same page as Marcus Mariota. Their defense has been leaky.
Played well.
He's played great.
He's played pretty well.
He's a good player. Mariota's a good player. He's just always, Mariota's issue has always been he's taken a beat too long to cut it loose, and it's always been just that extra half second that he can't afford to take, that he is needed to take, and it seems like he's gotten over that a little bit. He's a more willing runner. He was kind of an unwilling runner for about 2 years there after he kind of got his butt kicked a little bit, and that's totally understandable. No one wants to get hit by 240-pound guys that can run 4.4 repeatedly in football games. It's bad enough that you come out feeling like you're in a car crash. You don't want to feel like you've been in 10. So I get that, but it seems like he's a little bit more willing now. At this point of his career, recognizing he's at a bit of a tipping point. It's a dangerous team, and it's going to be a rough stretch of the schedule coming out. But hopefully, rest and a reassessment of scheme and what they do well and how to do it, even better is going to be their salvation.
Real quick on Austin, I mentioned all those receptions. What's the best way to use Austin Eckler, right? Especially now with Josh down and maybe Isaiah. It seems like they favored Sony, obviously, over Isaiah last week. What's the best way to use Austin, because I feel like these checkdowns, I think that they're just going to wear him down, right?
Because he's taking a ton of hits.
Point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's got 56 catches for 385 yards. It's
crazy.
6.5 yards per catch. I mean, which means you're getting tackled. You're getting dragged to the ground. You're not running out of bounds for an average of 7 yards per reception. So yeah, he's getting beat to heck. He's available. He always breaks the first tackle. You saw it a little bit. You saw both backs out there a couple different times. But again, I know I sound like a broken record. To me, you've got to figure out a way to open it up. You've just got to take shots down the field to get defenses to back off. And then that's going to help Austin, because he's not going to be facing 8-man boxes or a bunch of safeties that may look like they're in single or too high, and they're just waiting to creep up and get after him because they just, look, the tape is the tape, and it says that this team throws everything underneath, and your average depth of target is like, because of all the behind the line of scrimmage passes to Austin, it's like 4 yards. So that's what they're going to do. I mean, that's what you should do is, play with the numbers. You got 7 games, of information to play. And if that's what it tells you, then, and that was kind of the thing I was getting at with the defense. It's like, I know Geno's been pushing it a little bit, but I'll live with that. I'll live with him trying to take a shot downfield to DK or Lockett, as opposed to watching him just be able to stand in the pocket with no pass rush and, let these underneath routes develop because you're playing a lot of too high, and he's just taking the middle of the field over and over again, for 8 yards, for 12 yards, for 14 yards, for 7 yards. So I think that's, look, Coach Staley and Coach Lombardi, they got their work cut out for them because it's tough. They can't. The Chargers have not been able to find a pass rush, and they've not been able to take the top off of defense. So essentially, they're giving quarterbacks extra time to throw, asking their corners to be a little bit more sticky than maybe they're possible, than is realistically possible, and they're trying to move the ball against defenses that are right up on the line of scrimmage and not giving them any breathing room because they're not taking shots downfield.
Next time we talk money, the trade deadline will have passed, so we'll see if anything comes to fruition there. We'll get into Atlanta a little bit more.
Yeah.
But we've talked about just the overall mediocrity of the NFL this year.
Hey.
4-3 has you in the playoffs right now against the Chiefs, like you said, and there's a lot of football to go. You can catch fire. I think we have to see it soon, though, right? It's starting in Atlanta.
100%. I mean, look, I'm staring at the standings right now. The Patriots were in the Super Bowl, were in the playoffs last year, 3-4. The Bengals were in the Super Bowl, 4-3. The Broncos are 2-5. The Browns are 2-5. The Steelers are 2-5. You go to the NFC, and my goodness, you've got both the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the 49ers. Those are your 3 favorites to make the Super Bowl, along with the Rams. And the Rams are 3-3, and the other 3 are 3-4. It's just been a weird year. Defenses have caught up. Defenses have caught up to offense. That's what to me, that's the theme of this year, is you are seeing lower scoring games. You're seeing exceptional quarterbacks not have exceptional seasons, and points are at a premium. And you better be able to cash them. Like you look at, what game am I thinking of? Traded field goals for touchdowns. That was the UCLA-Oregon game. I get my 2 levels of football. I was like, you can't trade field goals for touchdowns. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened to UCLA. They were trading field goals for touchdowns, and they lost the game. But, that's just the story of the season to me, is defenses have been dominant compared to offenses. And, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough couple weeks for them. But, I got faith in them. They won 9 games last year, and, they're already 4-3. So, you kind of string that out, and you're talking about a 9-win season again. And that's probably going to be enough to get you in. But, 10-7 be awfully nice.
Yeah. 2-1 in the division, too. I mean,
exactly.
Win your division games, and you get the Chiefs here in a few weeks after these NFC back-to-backs against Atlanta and San Francisco. So we'll be back next week. Money, enjoy the rest of your bye, brother. And
appreciate it, you too.
Yeah, Chargers Weekly's in the books for the bye week. We'll see you next week.